Majora's Mask. Chapter 47. The Imposter. Tattle lay on the grass bridge, looking at her reflection in the water beneath it. Zora behind her plucked the wrong notes on his guitar. He appeared to be the famous Zora guitarist Mikau of the Indigogos. However, the hero of time had never played a guitar in his life.
Do you even remember what the notes are?
Tattle asked. I never forget a song. Maybe not that one, Link said, pulling a string and wincing at the sound. The guitar was a rather large fish skeleton and ran half the length of his body. The strings were taut across its sound hole, which was a hollowed fish pelvis. Everyone had recognized the famous instrument in Zora Hall, but there was one serious problem. Its musical champion had died with the real Mikau.
It doesn't sound like it,
the fairy said, rolling onto her back and staring at the ceiling.
Wasn't it only, 7 notes?
Yeah, but 7 notes on a guitar is a little different from an ocarina, he said, finally finding the correct pitch again. He smiled, playing 4 in a row. However, Tattle did not get her hopes up. As expected, the 5th note was incorrect. She moaned.
What happened to that tight schedule? The one you told the professor we had? We've been sitting here for hours. It's really, really late.
I just told him that because I didn't want to sit around and explain our entire story, Link said. It's a long, complicated, and confusing one. Besides, we do have more wiggle room in this cycle since we have everything figured out.
Sorry to burst your bubble, but we have no idea how to get to the temple, unless Lulu lets us climb on her back and ride her like an eagle over the ocean. I could get to the temple just fine, but you have yet to turn a person with wings into a mask.
She paused, realizing her genius.
Which actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
Maybe when we go to the canyon, we'll stumble upon a dying dragon, Link said, plucking the guitar. Then I could heal it, grab a 4th mask, and eat Majora in my dragon form.
Hey, I'm being serious over here. If we strategically do this whole mask-turning healing thing, we could have an advantage over everyone else.
Link's smile faded when he realized she was serious. Strategically turning people into masks sounds like someone else we know, someone who I don't intend on becoming. He played the first 4 notes again, failing again at the 5th. Tattle restrained her response.
You're becoming more like him than you realize,
she thought.
You killed people to get the eggs, just like the masked salesman killed Zelda to bring you here. I'm sure the pirates had lovers too.
The fairy balked, however, surprised by the venom in her thought. That wasn't a fair comparison, and she knew it. So Tattle didn't take the bait and dropped the masked salesman altogether.
Do you think you'll figure out the song today?
Yeah, Link said, leaving it at that. Tattle returned to lying on the bridge and listening to the horrible music. Minutes later, someone else entered the room. Mikau's large roommate beamed from the doorway at the sight of his friend. Mikau! His excitement faltered when he turned to Tattle next. And your cousin? Tattle sighed, levitating off the bridge to prepare for a conversation. Hi, Tijo, Link said, awkwardly standing up with the guitar. You don't have to act all weird, Tijo said. I'm not expecting you to let me in on your secret plot to help Lulu. Link merely watched as Tijo sat behind his drum set. The drummer began flipping through sheets of music. Sorry, Link said, stammering. Don't be, Tijo said, even though there was an edge to his response. Tattle and Link exchanged a nervous glance as Tijo messed with his drums and pretended his visitors weren't there.
A passive-aggressive roommate, the fairy thought. How wonderful.
Eventually, Link decided it was safe, so he sat down again, bringing the guitar up and strumming. The fairy floated down herself, but remained on high alert. The awkwardness was thick enough to make Tattle nauseous.
How do non-confrontational people stand this? She thought. Just sitting here in silence, afraid to rock the boat.
Personally, Tattle would rather set the boat on fire and throw it out the window. If the boat had a problem, it was garbage. No use keeping it. Of course, pretending to be a dead celebrity called for a bit more caution than she'd normally agreed to. Link kept strumming, while Tattle squirmed quietly and Tijo played drums. Eventually, Tijo looked up from his instrument. "What are you playing? You keep repeating the same 4 notes. Did you forget the others?" Link stopped. "New wave bossa nova? And yeah, I'm trying to remember the rest of them. Who wrote it? Evan? I don't think I've heard it before." "No, I did," he said. "I just can't remember how the last bit goes." Tijo nodded skeptically, turning back to his drums. More time passed, and Link found the 5th and 6th notes. Tattle's relief skyrocketed with each new note. He was almost done. But then, per usual, Link threw a curveball. Tattle narrowed her eyes when the hero stopped playing and uncertainly opened his mouth. Tijo," Link said.
Oh, Din.
Tattle thought.
Here we go.
"Lulu's lost her eggs." The drummer stopped playing and was immediately attentive. "That's what Evan and I were up to, trying to find them. Which I did. Now they're in the professor's laboratory on the shore. When the eggs hatched, they taught me a song. And I think if I play it for Lulu, she'll get her voice back. That's the song I'm trying to remember. And the fairy helped me sneak into the pirate's fortress to find the eggs, since she knew it better than me." Tijo considered his words, while Tattle sighed with relief. She'd half expected Link to rip off his mask and tell the whole truth like the lawful good he was. "I'm really glad you told me that, Mikau," Tijo said, smiling. "And I'm glad you found the eggs. I can see why you wouldn't want everyone to know that. You'll go play the song for Lulu as soon as you remember it?" "Yes," Link said, smiling as he returned to his guitar. A few minutes passed, far less awkward than before, and he found the 7th note. Link stood to leave and Tattle joined him. Tijo waved goodbye. "Thanks for letting me know, Mikau. I won't let Evan know you told me." "Of course," Link said, leaving with the guitar still in his hands. Tattle flew up to him as soon as the door was closed, an inch from his face.
I almost had a heart attack. That was so uncomfortable.
"Until I told him the truth," Link said. Tattle barely managed to restrain an eye roll.
Yes, she said, though telling the truth hasn't always worked out well for us.
"Yeah, but now it'll be a little less tense if we have to go back to the room."
"Okay, I agree,"
the fairy said as they began walking around the hall.
"It was the right call this time. I really thought you were going to rip off your mask instead."
"Don't be ridiculous."
"It's not far-fetched. You've done significantly worse without consulting me before."
Lulu stood in the same spot. Her hands were clasped at her chest as she stared at the ocean's horizon. Her deep sadness refused to waver. Link joined her on the small landmass as Mikau. He saw a Great Bay Temple, still a distant blip, surrounded by a storm cloud that raged with malice. Tattle joined him, eyeing both the forlorn Zora and the suspicious nearby island with 2 palm trees. The ocean stretched onward in every direction, except behind them where Zora Hall stood tall. The night was late, and its deep, dark velvet shrouded Termina beneath the stars. Link approached Lulu, guitar in hand. He considered saying something, but decided against it. "There's nothing I can say," Link thought. "Not with words, at least." He readied his instrument and started strumming. Lulu never looked up. She stared at the ground as the new wave bossa nova washed over them. Link got a note wrong the first time, and the second. He saw his fairy's worry grow, but thankfully, Lulu seemed too despondent to care. He got it right the 4th time, as if he hadn't just learned to play the guitar hours ago. The melody complemented the dark evening's melancholy, infusing it with life as the cheerful beat swirled like a calming balm. As always, Link got lost in the music. He didn't notice he was smiling to himself until he heard a noise come from Lulu. The hero looked up. The young Zora, flowery fins blowing in the sea breeze, was looking at him. Directly. Link stopped playing and stepped back. "Miguel," she said. Her brow wrinkled with confusion. Lulu's black eyes flickered to the fairy briefly. "What's going on?" Link could already hear the power in her words. He wagered her singing voice could win over any crowd. Link was too stunned to reply. "The song just snapped her out of it?" he thought. Just like that? My voice, Lulu said uncertainly, looking at herself as she became self-aware. What happened to me? Tattle nudged him, and her meaning was clear.
Say something!
Link said. Lulu, it's so great to hear your voice. It might take a minute to explain, but it's you, Lulu said. A smile slowly replaced her stunned expression. Mikao, it's you. I'm back and you're alive. Yes, Link said, but we should take a moment to... Unexpectedly, Lulu stepped forward and kissed him on the mouth. Tattle gasped. Link was too surprised to do anything but push her away. Lulu stumbled back and her newfound relief gave way to pain once more. Mikao, she said. What's wrong? Link stammered, feeling his Zora cheeks grow bright red. He looked away from her clearly wounded expression. What's going on? Lulu asked. Beyond Link's rejection, her intuition had to be picking up on something deeper. Zora knew some terrible, unknown truth hung in the air. Did Lulu just talk? This voice came from the doorway. Link turned toward it, desperate for an escape or diversion. Evan stood there, his tall, broad shoulders carrying the same authoritative air. The bandleader quickly noticed the awkwardness as he joined them. Is everything okay? Yes? Link said, a little too quickly. What aren't you telling me? Lulu asked, stepping forward. Mikao, is something wrong? No! Link exclaimed, trying to overcome his shock. I just... Suddenly, he wasn't in Zora Hall at all. He was in Snowhead. Link's hand was stuck inside Darkling's chest, whose head was thrown back with bright purple eyes.
I will rip it all the way out of you!
He thought to himself.
I will destroy you before you take my place!
He was eager, so eager, and intent on ripping the magic out of the shadowy servant.
You foolish child!
Majora's voice rang in his mind. It screamed darkly alongside the shadow. He was all three of them at once. He felt Majora's anger, the shadow's fear, the Skull Kid's determination, and, most clearly, the pain they all shared, the burning. But he could withstand it. He had to, so he could take the magic out. The purple, ethereal cloud escaped from Dark Link and caressed his fingers.
I will wipe you away from this world. No one defies Majora.
He had to do it. This was his last chance to remain Majora's most trusted servant. He would not relinquish that role. He ripped his hands out of the shadow's chest with one last mighty effort. Instantly, the connection was severed. Link was in Great Bay again. He collapsed, stumbling over a mask that had fallen on the rocky outcrop. The boy struggled to stand, but his body was still racked with pain. The ocean's soothing symphony was jarring compared to the harsh winter storm's dissonance. Link's head rang, now devoid of Majora, Dark Link, and the imp's voices. Then, Lulu screamed. Her shriek brought Link's world back into clarity. The hero looked up to see that Evan held her protectively. The two Zoras stood, horrified, and as far away from him as they could muster. Link's eyes spotted the fallen Zora mask next to the scorch marks on the ground, and his heart sank. Tattle flew to his side.
Link, are you okay?
Link didn't answer. Panic rose when he took stock of his human hands and limbs. His chest still throbbed with the dark magic's flare as he shakily stood. The Zoras kept cowering before him. They were terrified. Of me, the boy realized. I can explain, he said hoarsely. Who are you? Lulu screamed. Where's Mikao? What are you? Evan remained between her and Link. His gaze was hard to read. Only his unwavering resolve to protect Lulu came through. I'm I'm sorry, Link said. I'm not the one who killed him. His mind was so far away, so distracted. The kiss, the vision he'd seen, the pain. He just needed to go somewhere. He had to be alone and think. Mikao's dead? No, I mean... Link stopped, looking at the discarded Zora mask again. He grabbed it, turned, and ran into Zora Hall.
Link!
Tattle called out, but the hero's frazzled mind could not hear her. Link ran into Mikao's bedroom and slammed the door behind him. Tijo looked up from his drum set at the blonde-haired, green-clothed boy. Who are you? He asked. Tijo's expression fell when he noticed the human was panting and offered only wild, crazed eyes. The drummer noticed the Zora mask in Link's hand, too, and he stood up from his drums cautiously. You okay? I can trust him, the hero thought. In the horrifying chaos, his mind naively latched onto the one Zora he'd opened up to. Tijo, you have to listen to me, he said, walking toward him. Excuse me? Tijo said, turning as if to look for another way out, but Link stood between him and the only exit. How do you know my name? Don't be afraid of me, Link said. Please, I'm not here to hurt you. Tijo only tensed more. The hero stopped when he noticed the Zora's rising panic. The hero closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Control yourself, he thought. You can save this if you just stop for a moment and think. I came here to help your people, Link said. The Zoras. I'm trying to free Great Bay from its curse, which is one step on the path to stopping the moon from falling. I've been Mikao in disguise this entire day. I found Mikao on the beach, but he was already dying. It was too late to save him, so I turned him into a mask and used him as a disguise so I could figure out how to help you guys. What in the name of favor are you talking about? Tijo asked as Link dared to step a little closer. You're crazy! Link opened his mouth to say more, but he looked down at the Zora mask instead. Trust your instincts, he thought. There was no chance for a coherent thought right now, so the boy followed his gut. He put the mask on and became Mikao. Tijo gasped, barely managing to catch himself before he tripped over his drums. You... I was telling the truth, Link said. With his exposed Zora chest returned, he noticed the black mark had grown. While it was not as dark and intense as in his human and Deku forms, it was close. Tijo's mouth wavered, unable to produce words. He was in shock. Like I am, the hero realized. He savored the moment to think and gave Tijo patience too. Finally, Link's heart rate steadied. The world came into clarity again. It's going to be okay, he told himself. And so, Link waited, giving Tijo the most genuine look he could. When the Skull Kid's vision threatened to surface in his memory, Link pushed it away. Now wasn't the time. He could talk about it with Tattle later. Tijo, Link said eventually. Please, you have to trust me. Soon, Tijo calmed down. He found the courage to stop shaking and finally found a question. So Mikao, he's dead? Link nodded solemnly and prepared himself to share the truth. But his eyes, they turned purple. He shot fire out of his hands. Lulu's calm, placid demeanor had shattered entirely. Across 5 minutes, she'd gone from catatonic to relieved to worried to horrified and now to panicked. Thankfully, that last emotion had begun to subside as Tattle shared her and Link's story, but the young Zora remained alert and watchful.
I know,
Tattle said.
But that's not his fault.
In the clear, dark night, the palm-treed island was a shadowed backdrop to their conversation.
The Skull Kid shot that dark magic inside of him, and it takes control of Link every now and then.
Evan, surprisingly, remained quiet. He relinquished his protector's role with the threat vanished, so Lulu took the lead on talking. The Skull Kid, Lulu said, as if not remembering who that was. This is all so much. Why should we believe anything you're saying?
Because we saved your eggs and got your voice back.
Tattle said.
And we're not even asking you for anything. We're helping you. No strings attached. We have a plan to stop the moon from falling, and as terrible as Link looked when that dark magic took over him, its source is 18 billion times worse. The Skull Kid will corrupt everybody if we don't stop him.
Lulu didn't reply that time. She merely watched Tattle skeptically, but the fairy had already given them more than she wanted.
All I can think about is Link,
she reflected.
Is he okay? Did the dark magic stay off, or is he killing a bunch of Zoras inside?
She had to push those concerns aside for now, though. If she abandoned these two Zoras, Tattle feared she'd cement their relationship as enemies. Evan stepped past Lulu. Could we see this boy? This Link? Tattle hesitated.
Yes, he'll tell you everything I did. All we want to do is go to Great Bay Temple and lift the curse. That's it.
Let us talk to Link first, Evan said, looking to see Lulu nod in agreement, before we agree to anything.
Agree to what?
Tattle thought.
With or without your permission, we're going to that temple.
But she kept that thought to herself.
Of course.
And Mikau? Lulu said. Her voice shook. He really is dead? Tattle drew her mouth into a thin line.
I'm sorry. There wasn't anything we could do. The pirates killed him when he tried to rescue your eggs, but we saved his spirit before he died. The ocarina we have is magical.
The word stung her tongue as she spoke it, but she decided this explanation would be easiest.
His soul was at peace when it moved on, and healing his soul, gave us the mask.
Lulu's expression remained wrinkled with confusion. Those words didn't carry finality, only more questions. There were scripts for death and grief, but sealing troubled spirits into masks was too foreign to have a feeling tied to it. Inevitably, Mikau's absence would feel like death, but that might be far off for Lulu. Evan didn't appear interested in Tattle's explanation. Whatever Mikau's fate, we must speak with Link. Tattle was taken aback by his callousness, and Evan shocked her again by grimacing. His hand went to his chest. His face tightened as an invisible pain carved its way through his body. Lulu caught Evan before he fell, but he quickly brushed her and the agony aside. Are you okay? Lulu asked. I'm fine, Evan said tensely. It's nothing. I get bad chest pain. Evan never looked up to meet Tattle's furrowed brow. Instead, he bypassed both women and disappeared into Zora's hall. Lulu uncertainly looked after Evan. Is his pain connected to all of this? She asked. Evan's never had chest pain before. Tattle shrugged.
If it is connected, that'd be news to me.
She struggled to guess what Evan's injury might be, but she came up blank.
Not everything has to be a grand conspiracy,
she thought.
I'd have chest pain too if my lead guitarist turned out to be a toddler with demon eyes and a sword.
Lulu left without another word, leaving the fairy to follow. The new day's fingers began caressing the sharp points of Snowhead. Sleet and wind howled, regardless, obscuring the rocky terrain in its crystal curtain. Majora's mask lay abandoned. A layer of frost coated its orange eyes, which stared into the stormy clouds with a relentless, unnatural will. A cliff's sharp drop bordered the mask. Its depths were hidden by fog. For the longest time, Majora rested there alone. But eventually, a black hand shot from the fog. It grabbed the snowy ledge, and soon the whole shadow pulled itself from the abyss, red eyes bright against the blizzard. The creature collapsed beside the mask once it was finally free. Obscene gashes coated the shadow's arms and legs, but already they'd begun to heal. Even the hole in its chest had almost vanished, though the magic within was gone. Its connection to the mask, the imp, and the boy had been severed. The infusion of dark and light was gone forever. The shadow stood, looking aimlessly around Snowhead's desolate landscape. It had no commands. It did not know the fate of its master. It had no way of talking to Majora, as the Skull Kid had always relayed Majora's voice. Uncertainly, the dark servant approached the mask and lifted the relic from the snow, brushing the ice away. It stared into Majora's mask, beholding its glory. Then, the shadow slowly raised the mask to its face.
No.
The shadow paused. Majora had spoken. The voice was in its mind, yes, but it had spoken. Before now, the Skull Kid had filtered each of the demon's commands.
You are a worthy and dutiful servant, but you are no longer the magical weapon I desire.
The shadow merely continued staring at the mask.
We must adapt. Our liberation and ascension cannot wait. The imp will return to me, but he has proven useless. When he returns, I will lead him to the boy so that the hero can dispose of him. Then you will kill the boy. Once they are both dead, you will find me again and become the new bearer of the mask. And together, we will finally break Termina's shackles and realize our potential in the worlds beyond.
The shadow asked only one question. Could I kill the imp myself when he returns to grab the mask? There is no reason to give the boy that pleasure.
No. Let the boy kill him. Let the boy think he has won. Wait. Watch. Follow and listen. You are still tethered to the cycles and will go back in time with the rest of us. The imp is not to know you survived, and neither is the boy. But once the imp is dead, you will continue in his place as my assassin, and will have earned the right to possess my power.
The shadow tightened its fingers around the edges of the mask. Finally, it had proven worthy.
The imp was never your master. I am your master. You must no longer refer to him as such.
I never followed an order from the imp, the shadow said. I only obey you. Lulu's heart ached. It felt like a heavy stone had nestled itself there. Moments after reclaiming her voice from its heavy, cold grasp, it threatened to take it all again. Maybe this was what pained Evan's chest too. Grief's steady hand was somehow sharp and heavy, piercing her as it laced every step with lead. Zora Hall's elegant waterfall and clamshell stage could not penetrate that numb pain. Lulu walked with her hands clasped together, following Evan while the fairy trailed them from behind. Something is different about Evan, Lulu thought. Even more than just the chest pain. She could see it in his posture and stance. Lulu wondered if a mask would fly off his face too. How could she trust a world with such manipulative, cruel magic? The strange fairy had told the tale of Mikao's death, but none of it seemed real. The last thing she could remember was the pirates that had robbed her bedroom. In the middle of the night, her eggs had been taken. The pirate with 2 scimitars had woken her, blades gleaming in the moonlight. Lulu had tried to fight back, but they took the eggs and left her injured on the floor. Her voice had vanished then, along with those final screams for her children. It had seemed unnatural, how quickly and absolutely silence had befallen her, as if she'd been cursed alongside Great Bay. The next day, she couldn't tell Mikao anything, through spoken or written word. Her body had refused. Mikao had pieced it all together for himself, which had terrified her. Lulu had known he might try something stupid, and without words, she couldn't stop him. Now, he was gone, and there was no physical body to mourn. Eventually, Evan opened the door to Mikao's room, and they all went inside. The green-clothed boy sat across the room from Tijo. Their conversation ended when they saw the 2 Zoras and Fairy enter. Tijo, Lulu said. Tijo smiled. Lulu, It's so great to hear your voice. The fairy flew to the boy, whose eyes were much more bearable when they were blue.
Link, are you okay?
I'm fine, he replied. We need to talk, Evan said, his eyes firm as he ignored the non-Zoras reunion. He's cool, Evan, Tijo said. He won't hurt us. You didn't see the purple eyes and the fire that came from his hands, Evan said coolly. Lulu watched as the others conversed, wincing at Evan's words. He never used to speak so callously. No, but he told me about it, Tijo said. I don't think he meant to hurt anybody. That remains to be seen, Evan said. I need to speak with him. Now. The boy and fairy exchanged a glance, and eventually they crossed the grass bridge to leave. As the boy passed Lulu, she noticed something in his hands. A mask. A Zora mask. Mikau's face. She realized. The world spun as she watched her lover's face, held so casually by this stranger, and frozen in a neutral wooden expression. Lulu hardly noticed as everyone left the room but Tijo. She remained standing near the entrance, recalling Mikau's lips on hers. Then he'd backed away, confused. Mikau's eyes had turned purple, face contorted into unimaginable fury. She'd screamed as fire had threatened to burn her. The fairy had barely managed to escape the dark spell's reach herself. Evan ran to her aid, pulling her away to the platform's edge just before the possessed Mikau incinerated them. When the flames faded, Mikau's face had fallen off, clattered to the floor, and revealed a human boy. Lulu recalled those scimitars glowing in the moonlight too, and Mikau's voice, so sweet and gentle. I won't let them take any more from us, he'd said. I'm going to save us. She struggled to reconcile those kind eyes with the magician's cruel farce that had deceived her. A hand lightly touched her shoulder. Tijo's face broke the horrible memory's power, smiling from beside her. He pulled her gently to rest her head on his shoulder, and Lulu returned the hug. Mikau is the mask now? She said uncertainly. I guess so, Tijo said. His voice shook too, but Lulu could tell he was trying to be strong. The fairy said they healed him, Lulu said. They set his soul free. The boy said the same thing. She began to cry. There were no words to express her disbelief, shock, anger, or sadness. Instead, only logic could come to her lips. Do you think everything they're saying is true? She managed. Yeah, Tijo said. They wouldn't have gotten your eggs back if they wanted to hurt us. Lulu nodded, still resting her chin on Tijo's soft shoulder. What now? I guess we hope he can save us, and hope that he really is a hero. That moon keeps getting scarier every day. Lulu sniffled. I want to believe he can save us. Me too. But I also want to believe he's lying, and that Mikau's still alive. Tijo responded by pulling Lulu closer. The warmth was all the shield she needed then. My eggs are back, she said eventually. And they hatched. I want to see them. Maybe they look like Mikau. Tijo smiled. I'd bet at least half of them do. The friends sat together in one another's embrace. Tattle followed Evan into his room, and he closed the door behind them once they'd all entered. Your fairy tells me that you're a hero, the band leader said, wasting no time as he walked to his piano and leaned against it. Yes? Link said uncertainly, looking at his companion for support. Tattle floated beside Link next to the door, sharing his awkward discomfort. Evan pressed harder. And you can't control whatever dark magic takes over your body? The boy gulped. We're here to help. I promise I'm telling the truth about that. I believe you, Evan said, though his voice still held skepticism. You helped bring back the Zora eggs, and for that I thank you. It's just that Great Bay Temple is a sacred place for all of us. It's frightening to let a stranger enter it, especially one with dark magic. Link nodded. If it helps, I've been in the temples at Woodfall and Snowhead already. I freed both lands, and I can do the same here. I promise.
I promise.
Tattle repeated in her mind. Her stomach churned. She wished Link would stop making promises. That may be, but I want to go with you for this one. It would probably help to have someone that knows the temple well, and you'd be putting the minds of the Zoras at ease. Tattle sensed Link's uncertainty, so she voiced her thoughts first.
I don't think you realize how dangerous it's going to be,
she said.
We almost died in Woodfall more than once, and I assume Link almost died in Snowhead too, but I wasn't there for that one. And they're always crawling with monsters. We'd hate to be responsible for someone else.
I'd be more help than you think, Evan responded. Please, if you're going to save us, then I want to play a part in it. I feel helpless standing by while you two are out there, and I want to make sure everyone is safe. Every bone in Tattle's body rejected this appeal to a temple's sanctity, but she put herself, just this once, into a worshipper's shoes. Two strangers were about to enter their temple and defile it, and not only were they strangers, they'd actively used unknown magic to pose as one of their most beloved community members, which was inherently manipulative and dishonest, regardless of their intention. And, on top of it all, Link had breathed purple fire and almost scorched them alive.
Yeah,
she thought.
We stepped in it and have no right to deny them anything.
She saw Link reach the same conclusion when he spoke. Only if you're prepared for what's ahead, Link said. It won't be easy, and there's no turning back until we've slain the monster inside. The Skull Kid has trapped the guardian spirits into evil masks, and the demons that patrol these temples aren't easy to kill. I barely managed to defeat the last two, and I don't imagine this one will be any easier. Tattle reluctantly held her tongue. As much as she didn't want another Tagalog, it was the only way to keep the Zoras on their side. Evan smiled. Of course, I understand it won't be easy, but I need to step in as a protector of the Zora people, especially now that Mikau's gone. I understand, Link said. We're leaving tomorrow morning. It's already pretty late, so we could use the rest. Make sure you're ready to leave by then. We'll try to figure out a way to the temple. Evan seemed content with that decision, and after exchanging farewells, Link and Tattle left the room.
This is bad,
Tattle said immediately.
This is going to get so bad.
Tattle.
I realize we don't have a choice, but he's going to get in the way and he's going to die. That much is guaranteed. He might as well wear a shirt that says, "Kill me! I'm expendable and will artificially raise the stakes of the plot with my predictable demise."
This isn't a plot, Link said, the heat rising in his face. This is real life, and please stop making it a joke.
My point still stands.
Tattle, Link said, reining in his own emotional reaction. He's a Zora, and this is the Zora Temple. I think he'll be better off than you think. And besides, I'm happy that this is his only stipulation. We got caught pretending to be Mikau. If this had happened in Goron Village, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I know,
Tattle said.
That's what I meant by I realize we don't have a choice. I just really don't like it.
Me neither, Link said. But let's stay optimistic. His death isn't guaranteed. He paused after that, and Tattle did too. They looked around the hallway surrounding the pond and realized it was empty. Everyone had gone to bed.
Time to rest?
Tattle thought. That was unusual. Breaks, especially with full-fledged rooms, were not common for them. Link wandered over to the indoor pool's perimeter and sat at its edge. Tattle flew to join him.
So,
the fairy said, watching his expression.
Do you see through the Skull Kid's eyes? Did we get another sneak peek of what's to come?
Link nodded solemnly, taking a moment to find the right words. The Skull Kid turned on Dark Link. He had his hand inside of his chest and pulled the dark magic out, like he did with me. except this time, he pulled all of it out. He paused as if overwhelmed by his feelings that brought.
Does that mean Dark Link can't turn his eyes purple and shoot fire anymore?
Tattle asked. Yeah, Link said. If it didn't kill him, which it might have, Dark Link seemed really afraid, but Majora was afraid too. That was the scary part. I guess it's a good thing when I think about it now, but when I was a Skull Kid, I felt his fear. Part of him wanted to obey Majora, but the other part, the part that was afraid that Dark Link would replace him, won. I felt his pain too. It really hurt my scar. Link's hand went to his chest, though his tunic hid the scar. Whatever used to be inside of Dark Link, and what's still in me, really hurts Majora. Tattle took a moment to take all of it in.
You think that's the key to stopping it?
I don't know, Link said. But, Tattle, I felt Majora's pain. When he was hurt, I was too. Unexpectedly, the boy's eyes welled with tears. I know I said I would go down with Majora if I had to, that night when Anju died. But I didn't. He stopped, his mouth quivering. I don't want to die, Tattle. Link couldn't meet Tattle's eyes. He stared into the water as he cried silently. Tattle was surprised by the outburst.
You're not going to die, Link,
she said, floating to his shoulder.
We'll find a way. There's always a way. I promise. Now I've done it too,
the fairy thought. She finally understood why Link made all the promises he did. It was all they could do in a world so desolate.
Maybe the Skull Kid can rip all of the magic out of you too, and you won't be connected anymore. That way there's no risk. Skull Kid owes us a favor or two.
Link smiled, finally looking at Tattle to see her return it.
I know things look hopeless a lot,
Tattle said.
But I've known you for, what'd we figure out, like 20 days or something? And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you never give up, and you always find a way. We'll finish Majora together. One day. Sooner rather than later, and after that, we'll be okay. We'll all be okay.
Link nodded, wiping away the tears. Thanks, Tattle.
And if the Skull Kid really took out Dark Link, then that's one less thing we have to worry about,
Tattle said.
We're already halfway there. We just need to hold on for a bit longer.
Link, Tattle, Evan, and Lulu stood on the small patch of land behind Zora Hall. The island with the 2 palm trees still sat there, and the distant storm clouds still swirled around the temple. Non-magical storm clouds also blocked the sun, but rain had yet to fall on the early second day. Link was freshly awake, his sword, shield, and bag at the ready. His fairy was beside him, and he felt that the third adventure was nearing its climax. Finally, he thought. No more awkward conversations and lying. Lulu and Evan stood together. Are you sure you have to go? Lulu asked Evan. Yes, he said. I have to make sure we're safe.
That's fine and dandy and all,
Tattle said.
But we still have no freaking clue how to get there. Swimming and flying are no-goes given the murky water and everyone's lack of wings, so...
Don't worry, Link said. Like you said, I always have a plan. Tattle looked to her side, eyebrow raised as she saw the boy remove his ocarina. Link brought it to his lips, remembering how it had aided him in entering every temple so far. He closed his eyes and swayed as the new wave bossa nova flowed forth. Lulu looked up at the song's sound, soothed by its melody as before. Evan didn't seem fazed, looking out to see if it did anything. Tattle noticed the ground quakes first. She spun to her left, watching the small island had begun to tremble terribly. The palm trees swayed madly as a chunk of land rose from the water. Link stopped playing his ocarina and noticed the change himself. The island turned out not to be an island at all. A great green head lifted from the water, its eyes dark and black. Equally massive fins and a tail rose from the island's opposite ends. It was a giant animal, one that had drawn itself into an island-sized shell. The green fins, tail, and head were the true body, and its audience collectively identified it as a turtle, a big one. The fins moved in long, great strides as it turned its body, making sure to face those before it. The two Zoras, boy and fairy, stood in awe, staring up at the great being before them. The turtle threw its head back and released a powerful, extraordinary yawn.
Ah, I slept quite well.
The turtle exclaimed. Its voice was as commanding and awe-inspiring as its size. The palm trees on his back still swayed in the sea breeze.
I just realized this when I opened my eyes. The passing of days is quite quick, isn't it, Lulu?
Lulu was too shocked to respond, taking a step back and blinking dazedly.
Yes, Lulu. It's nothing to be surprised at. Although my eyes were closed in sleep, I still see everything that occurs in this ocean.
The turtle paused, however, furrowing his brow.
It seems Lulu is confused.
Lulu is confused!
Tattle exclaimed. The great turtle blinked heavily, turning his gaze to the fairy.
Of course she is! I expected the song to, raise a temple out of the water or create a magic bridge, not awaken a giant turtle! Who are you and why were you just sleeping there?
Regrettably, there is no time for idle conversation.
The turtle said, though he did smile at the fairy's outburst. The turtle used his fins again to face back towards the temple.
Now then, proud warriors, the open seas of Great Bay have need of your might. Quickly, climb onto my back.
Link and Tattle exchanged a glance, the disbelief between them apparent. Well, Link said. How convenient. Huh? He turned to Evan. Are you ready to go? Evan forced himself to look away from the mighty turtle, nodding uncertainly.
A giant turtle,
Tattle said.
I said there was something suspicious about that island, didn't I? This is crazy!
Evan, Lulu said as the band leader began to leave. You'll be careful, won't you? I don't want to lose you, too. Of course, Evan said, smiling to reassure her. And Link. Lulu walked up to the human boy, too. I'm sorry for kissing you. Link's face reddened instantly. Oh, it's okay. I'm sorry I lied. To all of you, I was just trying my best to help. I never meant to hurt anybody. Lulu smiled. I wish you the best of luck on your journey. Link looked away when a thought occurred to him. Then he reached into his bag, pulled out the Zora mask, and extended it to Lulu. I want you to have this. Tattle opened her mouth in shock, gasping at his stupidity. What? Lulu asked, uncertain. I want you to have what is left of me, Cal, Link said. Part of him is sealed in here, and it's not right for me to have it. Lulu looked at the mask, though the hero wasn't sure if her longing or caution was stronger. She reached out a hand, but eventually brought it back to her side. I can't, she said. Mikao's gone now, and you need this more than I do. Having this won't help me. Link waited to see if she changed her mind, but she didn't. He nodded as he returned the mask to his bag. Tattle, meanwhile, sighed with relief.
Oh, thank God.
Why so slow?
The turtle asked, his long neck craned back to look at the 4 people behind him.
Hurry up and fire your hookshot into the palm tree on my back, Link.
The boy was taken aback, turning away from Lulu with an eyebrow raised.
Of course I know your name. Didn't I say that all is seen by me?
Link dismissed the comment, waving bye to Lulu and turning to Evan. Are you sure about this? There's no turning back once we're on his back. I'm sure, Evan said. I need to make sure Zora Hall is saved once again. Link removed his hookshot and wrapped his arm around Evan as he aimed at the palm tree. Then off we go! Lulu stepped back, watching as the pointed end fired from his contraption and latched itself onto the bark. The chain was strong enough to pull them both onto the turtle's back, zipping through the air over the short distance. They landed on the shell's large, grassy surface. The 2 of them were puny on the back of such a massive creature. Tattle flew to join them as the turtle swam for the temple in the distance. Its powerful fins propelled them forward, and Link and Evan quickly found their balance. Large amounts of water lapped onto the shore behind them, spilling into Zora Hall. The turtle swam regardless, barreling forward into the ocean's mighty wind. Lulu watched from the shoreline. The massive creature shrank on the horizon as Link, Tattle, and Evan disappeared altogether.